Good morning, everyone, and to my plenty Egbons. This is my white beard. I kind of look like the older one in the room. I just have to remind people that usually I'm the youngest around, and in this particular instance, Egbon Joe, Waziri, Egbon Egbon Shegun. It's a pleasure to be here. First, thank MacArthur Foundation for the crucial work you do in spaces where the foundation is truly reflective of what is missing in our development space. So thank you so much for the work you do and your support. Your support has been crucial to many of the things we do that make a difference, so we're grateful. Agora Policy as a whole, it's a gift to Nigeria. We continue to be nurtured by its insights, and we continue to be proud promoters of a Nigerian-owned, Nigerian-led, think tank thinking for us. And you brought just a whole new scale of rigor to analytics in Nigeria, and we want to continue to encourage you to do so. You have the NESG support always. First graduating class for the policy writing course. Congratulations. It's an unparalleled opportunity to be part of this cohort, I think, because I think you're breaking grounds in very unique ways. So, when I was 21, I came back to the country as a scholar of peace for the Club of Rome. And my first secondment was to a government institution because I was trying to get them to go do some rural work. My first memo was a terrible disappointment, which an old clerk whose name is, I call him Mr. Gabriel. He's late now. When he saw my first memo, he said, "Young man, we don't write love letters here." that this is neither a short brief or a long brief. You're confused about what you're writing. I wrote that memo 40-something times that day before Mr. Gabriel finally signed off. But that taught me something, that really great governance work requires craftsmanship. And craftsmanship, to Dr. Collins' point, you don't learn it in school. You must sit under a master craftsman to shape those crafts. For the next 1.5 years, Mr. Gabriel fought me over everything from issue paper to, what is a full brief, what is a half brief, what is an executive summary. And, people say, "Oh, you write well." I say, "It's a clerk." It's an old clerk called Mr. Gabriel that got on my case very early on. And it does make a difference when you can really write. I struggled as a policy analyst in 4 big areas. One, analysis that the final output did not have a format, So as a young policy analyst, when they say bring the analysis, I kept asking, which is the Nigerian format for delivering the policy analysis report? And if you read Dawn or Bass Straits or one of the other guys, you get lost. What's the country format or the state format or the institutional format? That was a dilemma. And luckily, people like Mr. Gabriel and other master craftsmen helped resolve that as I went on. Later on, when I thought government was my calling, I showed up at Harvard Kennedy School. And in the middle of all the plenty English, I asked them basic questions. Come, show me a standard policy document, because I need to know how to write one when I go home. What you're saying is nice, but I am advising a minister who needs to write some policy. I was then serving as technical assistant to Pa Ojomadueke, and we were between 44 maritime conventions we needed to domesticate and a lot of analysis work. Again, simple tips from masters that just said, it must have 8 parts. It must look like this. It must have, it must always have an economic or financial analysis. This is what you're looking for. It must always leave the policymakers with a policy option. Those kind of things helped as I went on. So Material development is interesting, but in my reflections now, I think if there was a school like this, if there was a course like this that got me ready on day one, maybe many years of my sleepless nights will have been shortened. So thank you again, MacArthur and Agora Policy for this. Now, to the graduating students, here is my challenge. 7 out of 10 policies, at least from NESG's count, since 1993, have failed to be executed. In the big part of the failures, the problem is not the policy document. The problem is policy execution. So because policy execution requires the policy analyst does more than the first analysis, usually. It usually requires policy memos, policy issue papers, news releases, impact assessment analysis, and a range of other types of policy documents. And this is where the analyst becomes a vital part of the entire policy process. So I want to challenge you, as you go on this journey, to view this as your foundation, but to dive deep, become vested in being a master craftsperson, so that as the country needs, and the country will need, more policy people to rise to the stature of our ideals and our dreams, you can then be counted as one of those that move us along. Congratulations, enjoy the moment, and well done.